Good day, and welcome to the 2019 Ford Fiesta. This is a brand new Ford Fiesta. It's in fact the first brand new car that we have on our channel. It's not been kindly donated by Ford corporate though. It's actually been kindly donated by my mother. So thanks, Mum. I'll drive carefully. It's an ST line with the 1 litre EcoBoost turbo petrol engine, pushing out the mid-level 125 horsepower, which is plenty in quite a small car. It comes with a 6-speed manual transmission, which, you know, is definitely the enthusiast choice. This model is also the 3-door, which just looks sportier. And as you'll see from the exterior shots, it's in quite a vivid racing red with some quite tasty wheels on it. It comes with it's got a lovely squidgy, flat bottom steering wheel that really lets you know the sporting intentions of this car. It's got a fairly standard gauge cluster actually. It's mostly still normal dials, which you'd expect from this sort of vehicle. So it's just got a tach, a speedometer, a temperature gauge, and a fuel meter. There's also a digital display which has your current MPG, your lifetime MPG, your trip computer, and your current range. It comes with Ford's Sync 3 infotainment system on a fairly large screen actually, and it comes with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay as standard, which is good because the kind of apps that are developed for phones have way more put into them than any auto manufacturer could ever possibly put into their own mapping system. Okay, so getting onto practicality, there's lots of little cubbies in this car. It's got fairly large, if slightly odd-shaped door pockets. It's got a little cubby just to the right of the steering wheel, which is the exact kind of place you might throw your car keys and then not be able to find them in your own car. I imagine it's probably best for toll booth change, isn't it? So then we have the center console. There's a large bin up front that's ideal for putting in your car keys or a smartphone if you connect it to the infotainment system. Moving back, you then have the gear lever, and then you have 2 cup holders and another little cubby, which is sort of similar to the one in my Ford Focus that was perfect for McDonald's chips, but this one's directly under the handbrake, so you unfortunately won't be able to fit any in. And then moving past that, there's another larger bin at the back with a slightly deeper cup holder in it. On some models you can have an armrest there. You also get a 12-volt socket and a USB at the front. And the USB at the front, I believe, is the one that you plug into to connect your smart device. It's got automatic climate control, but it's still got all manual buttons, which is quite nice. And there's just a blue and a red for hot and cold. There's no numbers, so you can just spin it what you're feeling, which I quite like. I prefer that. There's a decent sized glove compartment. It actually comes in 2 sections. The top section looks ideal for the owner's manual, but what it actually is you can spec this car with a CD player if you, I don't know, invested heavily in CD in the mid-2000s. But that is a £200 option. I wouldn't bother personally, because everyone has music on their phones nowadays, don't they? And then, yeah, the bottom's quite capacious. You can fit in a large bottle and a GoPro, as it turns out. I definitely didn't forget to bring anything else to practicality test with. Obviously, it's a 3-door model, so entering and exiting the back is never going to be a completely graceful manoeuvre. But actually, the door openings are quite good, and the seats go very far forwards, and I can get in with relative ease. Maybe if you're over 6 foot, you might struggle a bit more. But actually, the real problem is if you're over 6 foot, once you get in the back, you'll be sitting with your head up against the ceiling, as I was. Also, if you have a driver of my height in front of you, legroom is going to be very tight. But obviously, this is a small car. It's not designed for having 5 adults up in it. It's, you know, designed for 2 adults in the front, and then, you know, other people for short journeys or children in the back. Because on that note, it does come with ISOFIX, so it is a practical family car. In the back, even though you don't get doors, you do get door bins on either side, and of course you get seat back pockets, which are just the classic fabric style. The boot is amply proportioned for this size of car. yes, you can get bigger ones in the rivals, but actually, those cars are bigger. If you get a Polo, it's quite a big car now. It's bigger than the Mark IV Golf was. So I'd rather have the smaller footprint of this car, because for the amount of people you can fit inside it, you can fit all their stuff in the boot. The back seats fold down. It's a 40-60 split. They don't go completely flat, but it does provide a larger loading area, and you will be able to fit bags in. There is no raisable boot floor in this car. I believe you can get it as an option. I don't really see the point in them though, personally. Just find a piece of luggage that's the same size as like the bottom of your boot, and then slide everything over that. So there's no false floor in this boot. So there's a load lip, and then where the seat backs go down, there's a lip there as well, and the seat backs just fold down on top of the squabs, so they're quite diagonal. But you will be able to fit large items in this car. It's not completely bereft of practicality. It has a couple of latch points on the side, and some curry hooks, so you can hold your shopping up if you haven't bought much and you don't want it to fall over. And then under the boot floor, you won't find a spare tyre. You will find a tyre repair kit. So yes, onto the engine. It's an EcoBoost, which is the name for Ford's turbo petrol engines. It's a tiny little 1 litre 3-cylinder, but it does pump out 125 horsepower. Now obviously, stepping off the mark, before the turbo spools, it's a 1 litre 3-cylinder engine. So your first few revs, your first half second, it's a little dead in the water. But then once the turbo kicks in, it's smooth and it just pulls. It really is. Other than that initial kickoff, it's like having a bigger engine. Now, moving on to the feel of the car. So obviously, it's all dressed up, all ready to go. It's got red stitching on the steering wheel. It's in Boy Racer red with dark grey satin finish rims. You know, it looks the business. And it has a nice peppy engine. At low speeds, the steering is quite dead on centre, which is great for manoeuvring around town. It's brilliant as a town car, but it does mean you sometimes don't have quite the level of certainty of where your wheels are pointing. I'm finding the pedal inputs to be quite light and sensitive. I'm used to a heavier brake pedal, so I'll keep launching myself through the windscreen. The clutch is quite nice though. It's a good mid-level bite point. And then yeah, the throttle pedal is very satisfying. It's very nicely weighted actually. The other thing is though, the whole car is very nicely insulated. It's you know, for a small car, it's quite quiet in here. It doesn't pipe any noise in. Ford do it themselves, but only on their performance models, I think. So actually, you can't really hear the engine, which is a shame because 3-cylinders can sound quite raunchy sometimes. I like odd numbers. The sound of odd numbers. Someone who's buying this car might want to hear the engine, but then some people might just be buying it to be a runabout town, so they won't really care. Now, having said that the steering's a bit dead on centre at low speeds, once you're moving, and also once you're actually in a turn, you do get more from it. It's quite nice. It's still fairly light, so you're not going to get tired steering this car, but it does tell you where you are. So the seating position's quite good. It's very adjustable. The wheel moves, it moves in and out and up and down, and there's a height adjustment and a back adjustment on the chair. You can option in an extra lumbar support. That would be good if you were doing more long motorway driving, I suppose. But actually, as it is, the seat's supporting me quite nicely. It's hugging me, and it's keeping me in place through the corners, but it's also quite soft and comfortable. To match the quiet interior sound, I'm pleasantly surprised by the suspension. I was slightly worried, since this car is so sporty, that it was just going to be a bit of a crash fest. But actually, they've remembered that it's a car that people are going to use. And yes, I suppose the other thing is the styling, which is nearly entirely subjective. But the previous Fiesta was a very handsome car. I think this Fiesta is a very handsome car. And of course, the Fiesta itself, it's the best-selling car in the country. So yes, to sum up, The styling, I like it. I think it especially looks very good with its combination of the red with the alloy wheels. The interior is very nice. There's lots of soft touch in here. It feels very well made. The steering wheel is lovely to hold. It's got nice squidgy bits where your hands are for your driving and little grips. The seats are comfortable. There's enough space in the back for what this car is, and there's definitely enough space up front. You're not going to be struggling even if you've got two 6-footers in here. The boot's big enough, and yeah, as far as driving goes, it's classic Ford. You go down the road, you know what's going on, and it's a very rewarding experience. So, the new Ford Fiesta. It's a thumbs up from me. Oh man, it's ripe of manure here. Wow! Really can smell the grey outdoors right now.